prayed for us, and I can see there are some few new people who have joined us today. Eric, were you with us yesterday? Kennedy and Sylvia? Did you manage to attend yesterday's forum?
Yes, I did, but I joined a little bit late.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so you were able to follow through?
Yeah, the last bit.
Okay. Eric? Eric, were you with us? And Kennedy? Kennedy Kiro? Looks like they're not able to unmute, but I've moved everyone to the panelist seat so that we can be able to just unmute ourselves freely and contribute. You could always stop me at any point for any clarifications, for any comments, or any repeat of something that I could have said, or maybe just a comment or contribution as we move along. So today we have a long way to go. So I would request one of us could open for us with a word of prayer, then we can just kick from where we stopped. Mary, would you kindly lead us with a word of prayer before we start?
Let us pray. Father, we are humbled in your presence this morning. We want to thank you because of your faithfulness in our lives. We thank you for this opportunity to come together and learn. We want to commit this day unto your able hands, oh God, that you may guide our steps, that Jehovah will be able to acquire knowledge that we require. We want to pray for our facilitator and the members, even those who are joining, Jehovah, that we may work together as a team for the glory and honor of your name. In Jesus' mighty name, we do pray and believe.
Amen. Thank you, Mary, for that. So yesterday we looked at, sorry? Was someone speaking? Okay, so yesterday we looked quite a bit of the course objectives that we intended to cover. We were able to just a minute, to do item number 1 up to 10. So today we are just going to do the last 5, the 5 items, then we look at the practical examples. And one of the cases that we revisit is the case that we had yesterday for the team for Shane that was working for Litimas, an organization that does with learning instructional materials and the designs. So we will, and we actually saw that in this case, Shane had a team of 5 people. One of them was a star performer who was Samuel, if you could remember. Then he had 3 mediocre performers. That was Ashley. We had Liam and Logzent. Then we also had Catherine, who is also a senior instructional designer, but she was a poor performer among all, despite her many years of experience. Of course, we could see some cases like Ashley. She's still learning the ropes of the organization. She just had 1 year experience, and apart from the college knowledge she had, she was lacking some skills. The others, Roxette and Liam, had some years of experience. We remember Liam had about 2 years of experience as an instructional designer, and Roxette had about 5 years experience also as a senior instructional designer. And we could see their areas of concentration. You could see Liam mostly is concentrating on finance domain and was not good on others. Someone could concentrate on the classroom and not the e-learning, or had the passion or could try the hands-on, so they were not able to concentrate. So we will revisit that case and see, despite Shane having a team of 5 and having Samuel as a star performer, the rest of the team were just giving a mediocre performance, leading to the team giving just okay performance instead of delighting the customer. Those are some of the facts of the case for people who could have missed it, but we are going to revisit, and we are going to give more attributes. We were able to give the resume for all of them, and I hope you just jotted some point, because it will come in very handy in when you're looking at the practical examples, because we want to take whatever we're going to learn in this forum, how can we apply it using different tools in your workplaces? And then we could just look at that case and say, which tool can we use for Samuel? What tool can we use for Catherine, who is a poor performer, and why is she? Try to interrogate. We kept on saying about the performance discussions, giving feedback. So what are some of the questions that we ask, and how do we use them to actually enable the staff to perform. So those are some of the things that we did. So I will resume from where we began, and maybe as we go on, let me just hear from just a few of you. What is the one thing that you took home yesterday from our 3-hour session about improving performance of employees? Just one item that you took, or that was very instrumental to you yesterday as we continue. Let me hear. Anybody? I don't want to pick on someone, just volunteer. This is what Rhoda I had yesterday. Just tell us what you had. Yeah, that's where we reached. Waiting. What is it that you took home yesterday from our session? Just one item. Jeff, welcome. Maurice, welcome to the panel. Ishmael, karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you, Rhoda. I was trying to unmute myself. My apologies for the delay. Yes, the balance scorecard approach, I think it was an appeal to me. I took that, and of course, in organizations we use different types of these performance measurements. But that approach to me, that's the key thing which I also took amongst others.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Also, Maurice added in the balance scorecard, the 4 perspectives that we looked, that they also have their 5th one, which they added into. So we could see the flexibility depending with the industry you are and your specific job and what is really core or determinant, especially their regulator, in terms of what you can do. So we actually saw the flexibility of this tool and that it should be tailored in such a way it is responsive to the needs of the business. Jeff? Or Sylvia? Sylvia, you said you joined in later. Could you kindly tell us what you picked in the few hours you attended?
Okay, Rhoda, the few hours that I attended, my takeaway home was on the 4 perspective, more so on the internal processes.
Wow, great.
Yes.
That's nice. Sylvia? Tom Kenga, Tuva, you're very silent today. What is it that you took that you'll take back with you?
Actually, I'm just listening. I'm walking, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So are you able to give us a comment as you walk? What is one thing that you took away yesterday?
The balance scorecard, the 4 perspectives, and then whatever we were told by Maurice, that they have a 5th perspective on risk and compliance.
Okay.
And I thought that was very important, because you can apply it in whichever sector. Because right now, compliance and risk mitigation is a very important element in management.
Thank you very much. I think that's fair enough. I could hear that we were following the 365. He talked about the 360. Someone mentioned they use it in the organization. Then we also talked about setting the SMART targets. So there are many things that we looked for, and also we looked at some of the possible performance measures that we could have in HR, the KPIs that we could set for ourselves, whether it's in training, recruitment, whether we are talking about compensation, whether we are talking about any of the functions that we deal with in HR, including the retentions and the turnovers. So those are some of the things that we looked at. We also looked at some of the traits that affect the employees' performance. And we will come back to this to see which are the positive traits that you think that an employee should have so that they can perform at a superior level or they can enhance their performance. We also looked at some of the tools for gathering the performance feedback. You remember we were talking about the performance appraisal tools that we have, having regular conversations, giving regular feedback, and things like the balance scorecard that we had. We also talked about improving the employees' performance, and I think that is where we stopped about what are some of the questions that we could ask. And if you remember, some of the questions that we said is we could ask questions like, what do you like or you dislike about working? In fact, those are the ones that we should, because they'll also be applicable for today, that we were asking, what do you like or dislike about working with this organization? What do you like, you dislike about your job? What in the past year that you have performed? Why did you perform this well? Why did we have some variances? Those are the questions that you consider. And you even ask questions like what can be done to improve maybe the level of your performance, so that if we have those mitigation measures, then we can be able to propel you to the next level. So today we are going to start from the point of strategies for improving performance of employees. And we are going to look at various things, which broadly, I can say we explained yesterday, especially when we were looking at the KPIs in the HR functions and some of the prerequisites of the requirements that makes people perform better. We were saying there are things that the organization must put in place. We remember we said there must be a clear vision, mission, and the strategic plan. And we also have to ensure that the job of the performance, or maybe the goals that you're going to set for individual employee, they must talk to the strategic plan. They must talk to the strategic goal. And that kind of an escalation matrix is what will determine whether the performance of every employee will be aligned to the overall goal of the organization. So some of the strategies that we can use to improve the employees' performance, we will just look them broadly, and these are some of the functions we do in HR. So the first one that we have is the role clarity. And we said when you're giving an assignment to any employee, or when you recruit an employee, we must have a clear JD for that employee. The role must be specific to a particular individual, and there must be a clear understanding from the employee part of him and also from the supervisor or the line manager. So the employee must know this is what is expected of me. And they must agree with the supervisor, this is what the supervisor expects of me from my job. So the role clarity has to be there. And from a HR perspective, we use this through what we call the job descriptions. At times we also borrow from the job description when you're coming up with the performance plan, because you have to look at what is the responsibility of this employee, what are the duties, what are the activities that they carry out every day, and how do they add into the strategic goal. So it is from the JD or the duties of that employee that we derive the performance targets and performance goals that we craft for him. So the role must be clear. It must be very clear with no ambiguity what is expected of me. And it should be clear to both the employee and also the supervisor. And we say this is the responsibility of any organization. And if an employee actually feels that there is some role ambiguity, of course, it causes a lot of confusion and disharmony between the team and also the employee and the supervisor. They must seek clarity. And that is why you see in our JD, we will come up with the JD and the job description, the job specification, and they are jointly signed between the employee and the line manager. The same case to the individual performance plan. So the other issue that we must ensure is there is developmental goals. When you sit with an employee, of course, you know their qualifications, you know their strengths, you know what they're expected to perform to whatever standards that you're going to agree. Then what are the job requirements in terms of also the skills? So this what's talk about, we must have, apart from the work and the technical goals that we have, what are some of the developmental goals that we're going to set for the employee? If they need to be mentored, if they need to be coached, if they need to shadow a particular employee so that they can upgrade their skills, then that has to be agreed. That for me to be able to do this, you can say, it's a new project that I have not done. We are supposed to do change management. And that is how you come up with the training or the intervention on how the employee will be supported in this. So this enables the employee, that is the individual, to grow as a person in terms of their career development. It also helps the team because now we are able to upskill and have more content for that team and also the organization as a whole. Then the number 3 is ongoing performance monitoring. We should not sit and do our performance plans at the beginning of the year, depending with where you work, whether the financial year starts in July or in January, and the appraisal period. So in between, we must have constant and regular monitoring of employees' performance. And that is why we have tools like the dashboard, so that at the end of every week, probably, if the reporting periods for you do are weekly, we are able to see where are we. So we are able to break the annual goals into short-term goals like quarterly, then you break them further to monthly, up to weekly level, or even daily. So for me to be able to achieve the targets, this is what. So you keep track on that, and you keep conversations going, so that at least you have about 2 or 3 conversations or evaluations before the main appraisal. This gives room for both the employee and the supervisor actually to have any intervention, if it's training, if it's the change of the role, review of the targets. So you are able to see before the appraisal period some of the issues that are contributing to any shortfall, or maybe if you see you're asserting the target, what is it that has changed in the business? So ongoing performance monitoring is very critical. The other issue that we need is ongoing feedback. It is very important for an employee to get feedback from their supervisor on their performance. Again, it's also very important for the supervisor to get feedback from his team to actually know these are the constraints of the job. These are the challenges we are facing. These are equipments that we need. If we could do this differently, probably our performance could improve. So this back-to-back, or the two-way communication in terms of the feedback, we said it is very critical for any relationship and for any performance to be at a stellar level. Then in terms of the goal alignment, we said when you are looking at all the jobs, they must be responsive to the need and the goals of the organization. Any organization, we look at it like a business. What are the business needs? What is the business clientele? What is their mission? What is their vision? Where do they want to go? So all the goals of the employees, even to the shop level of a messenger, they should be aligned to the company strategic plan and the strategic goal. So that alignment actually, so that when everybody works, then we achieve the goals of the organization. I don't know how many in our organization have this culture, or they have experienced a situation where, because of the laid back culture or the way people look at their performance, it is me to get this score to get a bonus because I'm a star performer. Because I come to the office at 8 and leave at 5, or I come at 6 and I leave at 4. But what is it that you deliver? So you come up with a scenario that in a department, that every member of that department, they're scoring, let's say 5 being the highest and 1 being the low. All of them, they are 4 performers, and we have a lot of 5 performers, the star performers. But when you go to the performance or the targets of that department, it is below average, probably a 2. Or the organization at a whole, it is performing at a level of performance rating of a 2, but all the employees have 3 and 4. Those ones don't align. There must be something with the measurements of, or maybe the setting of the targets. They are not talking to the strategic goal. So there must be that close alignment. Then the other issue must be coaching and support. When you talk about coaching and support, this look at the employee as a holistic being. You're able to look at that employee in terms of what are the development goals they need, what are their issues that they are facing, what are some of the support that they need. And this one-on-one coaching actually helps them to improve their performance, because you're able to understand that employee from a human perspective. Maybe this person is being measured or being assigned some roles that they are not very competent on, they don't have skills on, or they are not aligned to what their liking is or what they. So how do you try to do that? You ensure that you capitalize on their strength, and then you work on their weaknesses. Maybe the courses that they feel, or the areas they feel is they are not their core strength, you start giving them piecemeal work until they are able to, or maybe even attaching them to a mentor so that they are able to improve their performance. Standardization. Standardization is where we are talking about, let's say you have a team, let's say a sales manager have a team of 20 salespeople. How are their targets and the goals set? So there must be standardized from one employee to another, so that we don't end up overloading one employee or straining one employee with goals that are not achievable, then we leave the others to. So they must be aligned and they must be standardized so that there's a feel of objectivity and fairness and equal spread of work to everybody. Of course, there are some parameters and some factors that may come into play, because if these sales people are in different regions, you'll find like someone in Nairobi, because of their population and the market, maybe they have more clientele, may have targets that are higher than that employee who is in Madeira or is in Garissa in a remote area, because you also look at the constraints of the environment, maybe the market segment, what is your presence there, what is the brand present in that market. Those are some of the factors, and how is it easy for you to push the products. So those are some of the factors that may vary, that the people with the same JD, the same work, but then the targets may vary. Continuous open communication, we talked about feedback. In any organization, for any performance to thrive, it is all based on trust. The relationship between the employee and the manager, the management and the employee actually contribute a lot to the performance of an employee. If it is entrenched on the foundation of trust, the employee will understand, if I perform, my boss will perform, the organization will perform. So we should work in a way that we see my performance will affect my team and will affect the organization. And we are working for the good because we want to improve, we want to achieve our targets so that we can get our salaries, we can get so it must be in that environment of trust. And when there is trust, then it will be very easy for the employee to approach their manager for a discussion. And once we give the feedback, of course, you can see this is a fair feedback. It is well thought of. It is not malicious. It's objective, and it is to the good of everyone. So continuous open communications are very critical before we come to even the other evaluations and the appraisal that we say that are periodic. Trained appraisers. We have all learned when we were looking at performance management, one of the challenges or obstacles we actually found was the errors of performance appraisals and the management. And we could see different errors like the halo effect, the lenience errors, the recency effect, all those. Probably some of these errors could be overcome by having well-trained appraisers. Actually, many institutions, if you don't train your line managers properly on performance management, for me, my principle has always been train all the staff and you could have a training for all the supervisors because you train them about the leadership and the management skills on the communication, giving feedback, setting smart targets, how they monitor the performance of the employee, how to avoid bringing biases, also having those international, the interpersonal skills and the people management skills. So that training, it's more enhanced and you do it to all the people with the appraisal responsibility. You can look for a consultant. If you don't have the internal resources, then they can be taken, not necessarily through the balance score, the technicalities of it, but what are some of the principles of an effective performance management and also the appraisal. Again, now take the entire staff, if this is possible. Just train them on what they should expect in a performance setting and an appraisal, how the performance appraisal should be done. Tell them so that they know they should sit with their supervisors. If they have any conflicts, how do you resolve? Do you have review processes? How they should track their performance so that they are fact and evidence-based so that we don't have those issues. So having trained appraisers is something that is very important so that we ensure that there's a effectiveness and also the efficiencies. And also you reduce the biasness that is normally in the performance management. The other issue is reward recognition and compensation. Like the case for the Shane's team. Of course, what are rewards and recognitions and compensations are there to set Samuel apart from the other mediocre performance and also the poor performers like Catherine. So a performance management with this, without the reward and recognition and the compensation aspect, you can use maybe one or both or combine a combination of all, it is not likely to be effective because everybody asks, what is in there for me? What is this that will motivate me to perform better? It is not just internal push. There must be an incentive that is attracting me that if I'm a star performer, the organization performs, then the bottom line smiles and the employer also smiles to us. So those must go hand in hand. Mutual trust and confidence, that's what I talked about. Performance management is just purely based on trust and the confidence. So everybody should be able to understand each other. The employee should be able to understand, this is my responsibility, this is my obligation, this is what is expected of me. The same case for the supervisor. As a supervisor who is a leader to this employee, I'm expected them to develop them, to support them, to equip them, to give them the resources that are required, to give them ample space and conducive working environment so that they are able to thrive and they are able to perform at individual level, which will reflect on me. So it is for your good that the employees that are under you really perform very well so that they will pull you up. You can see like Shane could be a star performer as well. That is why he has risen to the position of a project manager. And to him, he has Samuel. But what is happening to the rest of the 4 of the team? So it is in his interest to build that trust and also confidence in his staff so that they're able to see it in a positive way. And we'll look at some of the conversations he'll have with each. Actually, he'll organize for a meeting where he'll meet with each and every of that staff. He will try to really unearth what is it that is making your performance poor, mediocre, what is it that we can do for you, what is it you can do from your end, and then they work together. Performance-related interviews. I've had cases where people go for performance appraisal, where the supervisor will tell an employee, go do your performance appraisal, send me an email, then we come for sign-off, or come with 2 copies, we sign off. They sign off and they fast track it to HR, and there has been no discussion or interviews. And you'll find, especially when we come now to disciplinary issues and performance, where the supervisor will one day wake up in the morning and say, I cannot work with so-and-so because he's a mediocre performer, he's not been performing, he's been relaxed and not meeting his targets, he didn't return calls to the customer, there are a lot of customer complaints. The first thing I always go, I want to see the performance appraisal for the last 3 years. When you look at the performance appraisal for the 3 years, the comment of the same complainant, he's saying the employee is a star performer, he's performing at 4, he's been good, he's diligent at his work. Then the conversation now you're bringing and what you're talking does not reconcile. So it is very good that even when you're having these discussions and the interviews, if there are good attributes that you have picked about an employee, the developmental goals you have arrived during this interview, it is good to record. If you promise that I will take you for this training, I want to build your capacity, I want to attach you to a mentor, it is your responsibility as a supervisor, again, to follow up to ensure that this is done. Because the employee can come back and say, I didn't have the skills on how to do this, or I didn't understand how to do this. In our interview and discussion, we agreed that the supervisor was to upskill me and develop me so that I'm able to achieve. So it is a two-way traffic. Then the other requirements that we need, or some of the strategies that we need to put in place to improve the performance of the employee, is just to have a review and appeal mechanism. One of the issues that I always find people having conflicts with in terms of the line manager and the supervisor is on lines of performance management. So in your HR policies, there must be what you call the review mechanism and also appeal where there have been some disagreement. For review is those discrepancies I'm talking about that the employees are performing probably at this on average, but the corporate at this level. There must be those committees that we call the normalization or harmonization committee that looks at once all the HR has picked all the performance appraisal. Do you have a management committee that sits through all those appraisals and they start to see the normalization? So they're able to see the outliers. You see in the performance management, we will always have a bell curve, but is that relating to how the corporate is performing? Because you must have the performance of the corporate. The people in the outlier session, what is it? You look at these people who are not really performing. You look at their appraisal and say, what is happening? Did they agree? Or any other that has some discrepancies, there is need to relook at that and review. So that harmonization or moderation committee, you can call normalization committee, must be there in your HR policy, and they must be there and effective and operational and functional, because you might have it on the policy, but it's not functional. And ensure you develop very clear TOR for that committee. They know that at every period, they're supposed to do that. Again, after they do that, when a staff is aggrieved about how they've been rated, or maybe what has been done, do you have another committee that can listen to all the appeal or the review? And if that is not, there must be an escalation matrix so that an employee who is aggrieved about their performance management, or they have a difference with the supervisor on matters performance management, they have the room and the mechanism to escalate those issues to a satisfactory level. And you ensure the people who are in that committee are objective, they are fair, they are not conflicted, and they are able to look, and they are well trained. So again, that committee, you should train it sufficiently so that they understand their role. They are able to remove themselves from the desk. The finance manager you are, the HR manager you are, the procurement manager that you are too, and maybe a committee of performance management. So their level of understanding of performance management must be above everyone. Then the issue of reliability. How reliable is your performance management system and the processes? How reliable are the results that comes out of it for decision-making purposes, because they have a financial impact, and they also have to talk to the strategic group. So the processes that you use, the performance management system, the results that comes out of it, because maybe it's all started from the planning, where the targets were not smart, they were not measurable, they were not responsive to the overall goal. So the results we are getting out of this, they are not a true reflection of how the organization is performing. So the performance management mechanisms, the tool and the processes that you have, they must be reliable. And finally, the other thing that we have to look for is specific objectives. The objectives you set for any performance management process, they must be specific. The goals you set, they must be very specific. And we are saying each individual's performance should be measured against specified, laid down objectives, which were clear and not vague. And when you look at the specific objectives you're talking about, they are being talked about in the past tense. So they must be predetermined at the beginning of the performance period. They must be specific. They must have been agreed. So you're just coming back after the performance period has lapsed, and you're looking at it. This was the desired output. These were the desired objectives. Where are we now? Are there shortfalls? Are there variances? Then you come up with, how do you look at them? So that brings me to the end of the strategies for improving performance, the employees' performance, which have been many. I think, and the beautiful thing about them, they're easy to understand. That is why I didn't want to read word by word. So before we continue, let me have any question about the strategies of improving. Anything that you feel you could add? Any comments, any point of clarification before we move to the next?
Yes, Rhoda, from me, you mentioned something interesting,
Yes.
the bell curve. You mentioned it in passing, the bell curve.
The bell curve, yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I tell you that from my experience, that has been the source of controversies, especially amongst teams, mm-hmm. where to understand they need to conform to some bell curve of some sort. Mm-hmm. What's your view? Is it the best approach? Is it the best practice? Because it still exists in some of our organizations.
Where everybody has performed, but now the HR or the moderation committee wants to force everybody into a bell curve kind of a tendency. Actually, you should not scientifically or try to bend people to that effect, because what we normally do, it starts from the target setting. I have no issue if you go to a particular branch, like in your case, and you find everybody is performing at a 5, assuming 5 is the highest. I think for Standard is the other way. 1 is the highest.
Yeah, 1 is the highest.
One is the highest. So if actually, what I normally look at, if that branch, what is the performance of that branch in terms of the savings, the income, interest, on all those parameters that you have, growth of deposits, growth of the loan book, maybe the interest income, the interest expenses. What is the staff costs versus the operations cost? When you look at all that parameter, because there is what you call the performance of that business unit, is it tallying with the individual performance? And how are these branch targets cascaded to each and every employee of that business unit? And did they all meet? The saddest thing when you come to the moderation is where you see the supervisor or the branch manager, because they want to please their people, have scored them, all of them 1, their star performers. But then when you look at the performance of that branch against the other, they're performing at a 3. How do you reconcile that? Again, if you come to that business unit in itself, among the goals they actually achieved, what were the targets that were pre-agreed? Because it's a number of facts. That's why we say objectives must be smart. They must be specific. They must be measurable. You said you're supposed to bring 10 goats. Did you actually bring 10 goats? If actually the targets that we gave you, you have managed, and you're all of them, they're not, you cannot force someone into that bell curve. Then you have to drill down which are the other business units, actually, probably the treasury, contributed to our performance. Which one didn't perform? So those are the things. So you must be able to actually align what was agreed. And if actually some of the cases, how they turn up is that the targets were wrongly set. That is why when you can see this business unit has met their targets and it's reflecting in the financial statement or the performance of the organization, then the other one is not lagging. So you have to drill down to find what is the shortfall and who are performing. But you should not just wake up scientifically and say, we must put everybody in a bell curve. So now when that is not showing up in the moderation committee, what comes? You have to drill down to the real effect. And it becomes very sad when actually you come back now to find when it's very late that the targets were not properly set, or what you set out were not properly allocated. So you'll find like maybe a quarter of the targets had nobody allocated to. So you gave your people less targets, so they all achieved it. Those are some of the things that we look at. And most of these things, I've not had a case where you are trying to moderate results to a particular business unit and you return them and they are not able to justify, or mostly they'll just downgrade them. They say, for real, this didn't happen, or these were the targets. So you still draw back, not from now the business unit to the departmental unit. If it's the commercial section, the retail, they may have given this branch low targets. So then you leave it at the door of the in charge, that of course there's this packet of targets that were not allocated to everybody. You had about 25 branches, you allocated them adding to this, but this packet that seems we could have assumed you said you'll deliver it. So you'll find the departmental head suffering at that point, because there must be predetermined and pre-agreed target. You cannot come back at the end of the year and they say, Rhoda, I gave you a target of 50, but now because of the way the HR has said, we have to raise it to 80 at that point. Then you'll have a dispute. But you should not technically come and force staff into a bell curve. But again, for any institution, including your family institution, everybody is not a star performer. But like the case for Shane Litmus, can we even have a bell curve there? You can see the kind of shape he's likely to have. Any other comments? Someone could contribute to that debate of the forcing people into the bell curve. What are your experiences? But I agree. At times, I think some of us might find ourselves in that position. And again, if the feedback and the explanation is not given to the staff or to the business, there is always that assumption that is how my marks were downgraded. Or probably these appraisals were returned to your head of department, and instead of again coming back and discussing with you and giving you the feedback, some of the issues that had been pointed out, then you find yourself now, the staff is left unaware or uninformed. Can we continue? Or there's another bunny? Any other? Then we can continue. You could put your comments on the chat. Sorry, let me promote some people. I can see Stella, I can see Njeri's on the other side. They're not able to speak. Welcome to the panel. So from there, let's continue, but you could always stop me so that we have clarification. So now we look at the competencies. This is quite a wide area, but I'll try to break it as simply as possible. Competencies for improving employees' performance. So we want to look at various competencies that should be applied and how they actually affect the performance of an employee, and how we could use different competencies in terms of trying to improve the the performance. And actually, these are the competencies that we'll also use in the case study. So you just better follow them up very closely. So some of the competencies that we are looking at, we just say maybe broadly what are competencies. When we say someone is competent, what do you mean by when we say you are a very competent staff? What does that mean? When you say you are very competent or you are very incompetent in terms of the performance? Does performance relate to competency? And what is their relationship? What is the relationship between competency and performance? Or what is competency?
Yeah, for me is the individual's ability. Remember yesterday we discussed the KSA.
KSA, yes.
Yeah, to put those KSAs into practice. So it's all about execution of the KSA, knowledge, skills, and abilities.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Actually, competencies is just the skills and the knowledge that we're talking about that actually lead someone towards a better performance. So most of the time you'll see someone, when we say you're a competent staff, a very competent staff, that means this is a star performer or a best performer. So there is that relationship. And we're saying they're normally individual abilities or the characteristics that actually determines the effectiveness of an employee when they're working. So this could be knowledge-based, like you could see the case for Stella where she's not Stella, she's Ashley. She's just learning the ropes and she has the knowledge because she has come from college and she have barely 1 year of experience. So mostly you'll see she's knowledgeable. She has the information and the data about a particular subject. However, she has not acquired the skills through experience. So probably you'll see what she needs is to enhance the skills through experience. What are some of the intervention you can have? Is it training? Do you take her back to school? She has the knowledge, but now the hands-on experience is what she's lacking. So what are some of the interventions that you can have in terms of advising Shane so that she can be able to improve her performance? Then you could also look at maybe someone is also very experienced. They have many years of experience and they can only work on one particular domain and they lack knowledge on another area. So anytime someone is not performing, the intervention does not always have to be training. It could be they need exposure, or some could say they lack knowledge in that particular subject matter, so we need to expose them to more trainings, or it could be an issue of attitude. I just believe this is not for me. This is not working for me. So what is it that you actually encourage these people so that they are able to? So it talks about the knowledge, the skills, the attitude, and other parameters for someone to be able to actually work. And we say, and what we learned, competencies are not fixed. You are not born with. These are things that with effort and with a lot of support, they can be developed to make someone a better person. So we also say, we also talk about the business competencies, the organization competencies. What are the strengths of an organization that will actually propel the people to better performance in the market? So the competencies could be organization-based, could be departmental-based, could be functional-based, that we are very good marketers in what we do, and could also be individual-based, that is personal or individual competencies that are with you. Then I think, as I said, when we say someone is competent, we say they are qualified to perform a particular job to the required standard. And then we said competency means the conditions of being able to deliver what is expected of you. I think that's all what that slide tells us about. Then we are going to look at different competencies that are necessary for someone to do, to perform at a higher, or we can say the superior performance level. So some of these examples that we require and we look for. And when I look at this, when you, as HR, when we advertise for the jobs, when you're looking at the specs of the job specifications, apart from the degrees, the diploma we look for, those are academic qualifications and the professional qualifications, we also come up with other competencies that we are looking at for a person. And some of these would include the adaptability of the employee, are they able to adapt into the culture of the organization? Or are they able to adapt and shift from one role to the other? And probably you want to pick someone from a different institution. And maybe the market segmentation for that organization, yes, they are a marketer, it is different from the uniqueness of your organization. So you have to look at this person, when probably where he's coming from, they don't do the kind of business we have, though they're in the same industry. So is this employee able to adapt to the needs of the business, the needs of the client, that will propel that organization, because the organization must have the targets that they want this person to come and meet. What is the commitment level? So some of the commitments you look at, how committed is this employee likely to be? And some of the things that you could look at, maybe even the stability of these employees in terms of how long does he stay in a job. So you'll see, like when you're recruiting and you see an employee has been hopping from one job to another after 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, within a year, the highest period he has stayed, it's about 2 years. Of course, it will raise some eyebrows, and you say, how committed are you at the work? Before you finish your probation, you have already moved to an organization. Before you settle down again, after another 5 months, you've moved on. So our commitment to that job. This could also come across from the work experience, where now you do the reference check and the background check and ask maybe the supervisor or the person they were working for, tell us what his work ethic like. Then you could see the comments that are coming. You can see, actually read into it, whether someone is committed or not. Independence. We always say we want someone with a self-drive who can work with less supervisions. The foresightedness, depending with the role. Emotional stability of these employees, looking at the requirement of the job. And motivation. Are they self-motivated? Creativity and innovation. Then you could also look at analytical reasoning. So things like creativity and analytical reasoning, also issues like the foresight, the emotional intelligence, or the emotional stability. Those are some of the things that you can look at through what we call the psychometric assessment, and any assessment that we normally subject employee to before we bring them on board in terms of the recruitment. Because once you meet them maybe face-to-face for the interview, you have checked the academic degrees, you have checked their professional qualifications, you'll have verified where they have worked in terms of the experience, but some things are intangible, and you can only subject someone to maybe a tested assessment to be able to bring out this thing, maybe to a satisfactory level. Of course, they're not 100% accurate, but it will give you to some satisfactory level of being able to see what kind of an employee are we likely to recruit. Issues of leadership and communication skills as well. Those could be tested in terms of the case studies that we normally give people, especially at the senior managers, where you give simulations cases, where someone comes, you give them a laptop, and then you give them a case study, give them a timeline of 1 hour, 30 minutes. Then you can see how they reason and how they'll carry out such a project. So those are some of the tools we could use in HR. Great. Now we are on the fourth last. I think we are making tremendous progress. So anything on the competencies that I've picked? Are they self-explanatory? I think these are self-explanatory for anybody who is in HR, like majority of us. So we proceed and see the types of competencies that affect the employee performance. And we look at them broadly. We will not, again, go back so much deep in them because they are very easy. So the way I've classified these competencies, I've broadly classified them into 5 pockets. And these are the ones that we'll use for the case study. Of course, we have understood what are competencies broadly, and we can see they can range from adaptability to communication skills to leadership. But now I want them us to narrow down to, in terms of the 5 key divisions of the competencies in terms of the type. And I will just explain how they will relate. And I want you, as I explain this, you relate to the case of is it called the litmus case of the Shane? The company was called Litmus? Lithium. The channels, we will come back to that. So you look at the profile, and I hope you can remember the profiles of the 5 employees. We had the Samuel, who is a staff performer, though I could walk you quickly through, the Rosette, the Liam, the Catherine, and the Ashley. Then you should put yourself in the shoes of Shane, how you can use any of these competencies to assist them in a conversations so that they can be able to improve their performance. So we'll go back to the case again. So the first type is what I'm calling the motives. Then we have what we call the traits of a person. And then the self-concept, how person perceives themselves. And this could affect issues like the attitude, the issues of knowledge. Knowledge we talked about, it's about the information and the data that you have, which mostly we get from maybe learning, researching, going back to school. So you acquire knowledge in a particular area. Skills, we say these are things that you learn along the way how to do. And these ones you get through practice, experience, learning from others, and trying to do projects. Skills, you learn them. The skills, you actually learn them. It's not something that you're born with. It's something that you learn through the effort and the support. So I think in that broad categories, then we can be able to look at them one by one. So we'll start from the lowest, which is the skills. Then we move to knowledge, then self-concept, then we do traits, then we finish with the motives. So I'll explain one by one. What are skills? In a very, I think we discussed about this when we were talking about the knowledge skills and also the abilities. They are interrelated. So I'll not go into the dictionary explanation. Is a skill. We say skills is basically the ability to perform a particular task, whether it's physical or mental. So you have the ability to perform. You have been trained, but now you gain the ability to perform. Then the next one is knowledge. Knowledge, we said it's all about information. A person has specific content or the data about a particular area. You went to the college to learn. Probably some of us did the bachelor of business management, human resource. You did become human resource because you are interested in that specific. We are going back to do the CHRP certification courses so that you have the knowledge of that course. But when you come back to work, you must be able now to learn the issues like negotiation skills, leadership skills, how to do performance appraisals like the way we are learning, how to improve employees' performance. So those are the skills you learn on the job. Then the issue of self-concept. Self-concept is how does the employee who is expected to perform carry themselves in terms of what is their beliefs, what is their attitude towards work, what is their attitude towards their experience and the knowledge. Are they interested or they are not interested? What are the values? What are their self-image? That's what I call the self-concept, how you look at yourself. What is your attitude? What is your predisposition? And that actually affects how you think and how you move into action to do something. Because if you're not interested in something, you'll even have the initiative to do it. No, you'll say, that's not my area. That is very difficult. So those are some of the things we call the self-concept. Then when you go to traits, what are traits? Traits, we say they are physical characteristics and they are the consistent responses that we give to situation or the information. This is what we can say, they are inherent or they just come. If Rhoda has a bad attitude, it will automatically comes. When someone comes and seeks for feedback, I'm likely to react negatively towards it. When I'm given an assignment that is not my like, I'll say, that's not my area, go to Peter. You see, those are the traits. So they gravitate you towards a certain reaction to a situation or the information. So you can just look at traits and say, this is too hard for me. So this is mostly on a personal attitude towards a particular subject or an issue, the values, the principles they bring into the work. Then lastly, the motives. What are the motives? Motives, mostly this, we can say things which a person consistently think about. What is it that you have filled your mind with? Of course, we say we are not our thoughts. But what is it that you're constantly feeding your mind on? And what is it that you want to do? So we say the motives drives or direct your energy to a selected behavior towards a certain thing. This is what drives you to. Maybe you really want to learn about this. So it gives you the driving force. And probably what you lack is the opportunity to use that. So motives, they say things about which a person consistently think about or want, and that which causes him to act the way he acts. Then we say motives drive or direct or select behavior towards a certain action or goal away from the other. So you become biased or inclined towards a certain direction rather than the other ones. So those are the competencies that we have. And we will see how we can apply this in a case study. So having a clear understanding what are competencies. So what is the relationship that I had said between the competence and performance? And I think we have also explained that there is a relationship that when someone has high competencies, they also become better performers. So let's look at the two together. And maybe someone just to read for us that slide. Mary, please read for us if you could see the slide on performance and also how it relates to competency.
Performance. Performance is a deliberate and purposeful action or set of actions that an individual takes in order to achieve a desired result or output of some kind that has got value to the individual. Competence can be thought of as a tool or the tool that individuals use for successful or exemplary or best-in-class performance. The best performer is always called a competent performer and not vice versa.
Yeah, I think we had explained that. That's clear. Then let's move to the next one. So let's see how the competency system that we have, we can use them as HR to drive employee performance. So now we come back having a clear understanding of the competencies that we have. Let's look at the competence systems and how they drive employees' performance in terms of the functions we do in HR. So we're going to look at 5 functions again. We're going to look at how we do our recruitment. How is competency and what system do we use? When it comes to a performance appraisal, well, how do we employ competence system to ensure that we have a performing team? When we come to training, what are some of the key considerations in terms of the competence should we put into so that the employee are able to perform at their max or optimum level? When we come to development, we talked about development of employees. What are some of the things that we can do that we will actually trigger or improve the performance of the employees? Then compensation. How can we use compensation to drive performance of the employees? And what are some of the things that we do? So let's look at it each at a time to just see how they relate. And they're just one slide. They're actually 2 slides each. And so to start us off, we'll start with the recruitment, and then we'll deal with one item. Then we have a contribution, then we move to the next one. Recruitment. Someone take us. Tom, are you? Have you arrived? I want you to take us through the recruitment, or Maurice, kindly read for us, whoever is in a comfortable position.
Okay, I'll read. Recruitment. Yes. Competence-based interviews reduce the risk of making a costly hiring mistake and increase the likelihood of identifying and selecting the right person for the right job. Competence-based recruitment is a process of recruitment based on the ability of candidates to produce anecdotes about their professional excellence, which can be used as evidence that the candidate has a given competence.
Read the next one. It's still on recruitment.
Okay. A competence-based approach to recruitment and selection of staff can help an organization to make it an effective and successful investment of time, money, and expertise. Such an approach will help to ensure that the organization is clear regarding the competencies and skill sets required by the job. The selection processes encourages a good fit between the individual and their jobs. Managers and staff have the required skills and competencies. Individual skills and abilities are matched to the requirement of the job. Evaluation of work demands and staffing are accurate.
Great. That's about recruitment. Does this happen in our workplaces? that at times we say the performance of an employee is also influenced by how they were recruited, how the selection was done. Was it a proper fit? Was there a proper alignment of their qualifications and the skills and the experience to the job that we were offering them? Did we know the expectation of that job, including the performance level, when we went into the recruitment and the selections and the interviews? Someone take on this. Is that accurate? And what are some of the challenges that we experience in our workplaces in terms of getting it wrong at the recruitment, and then the employee being unable to perform or to undertake the job, even at senior management level? Let's hear. What are the challenges we normally have with performance linked to recruitment? And what are the challenges to HR, majority of us? And how do you think we can overcome them? The challenges we normally experience at this, because we know this is the right thing to do. Are we always regulars, or there are some obstacles of the job? Someone told me, what we train here is very good, but when you go to the ground and the environment and the work culture, it's different. Let me hear from one of us. Stella, you want to speak?
Yes.
Yes, tell us.
So I have a challenge. At my workplace. We've been around for over 40 years.
Yes.
And the recruitment was not done right. So it was like this: you come in after Form 4, we employ you as a support staff. You make tea for us, you clean around. Then over the years, you can go back to school and do a diploma or a certificate. Then we've grown these people into management level. So you find that at the end of the day, when they are at management level, they do not have the knowledge. They do not have the skills, because the experience is only what they're experiencing internally. They've not seen the world. The world view is limited to here. So, and the world out there, the environment, the business environment is competitive, but we cannot match the environment, because all we know is here. We do not know what others know. So you find that even taking people back to school is only for knowledge, but the skills and the experience is difficult to achieve. At some point, I think, do I even maybe do an exchange program? So, because where do I get the skills? How do I expose my people to know what others know out there? That's my challenge. Yes.
Okay, but probably you have some few star performers maybe who are performing those roles, that like we could see the case of Samuel, who could you attach to so that you could pick one person and attach to a mentor. Do you have those exchange program and secondment where you could see like what Maurice has come now? He's come to the country from Zimbabwe, so that he can see maybe the labor industry and how we operate in Kenya, and then he can go and take back the practices. And you can see like now, if Maurice, you may allow me to give you an example. The employer is very intentional and purposeful of what they want Maurice to do. He just didn't leave his country and come here to learn about how they do it at their offices. Of course, you hear he was already in Mombasa for the industrial relations conference that we had, which was 3 days. You can imagine he interacted with over 100 people, and he took the networking and the contact. He didn't stop there. He has followed us into the online training from when it began. So by the time he's going back, he's seated there and he's picking a lot of experiences from us. And you can see the kind of HR he'll go back to his country with. So those are some of the things, even in small institution, you could come up with. Exchange program. Allow people to come and learn in your organization, or try to talk to those people. Take people for a week, for a month, then they'll be able to learn. Because at times, some of these challenges, they are very entrenched in an organization, because it depends with how you do even the first recruitment when they're leaving Form 4. Probably they were employed because they are relative to someone who had to bring them on board. And even you as HR, you didn't have much say. For you, you can only develop them. And the cost of developing these people and the training program will be very expensive. But what I like about that, you use it to your advantage, because they are their people. They brought their people, they need to be developed. So even when you go and ask for a generous training budget, it is for the welfare of the good, because for you as a HR, you want people who are delivering. And when you do the skills gap or the trainings need assessment, those should be the top of your top of your game, so that you are able to bring out whatever you are saying. You don't keep it in your heart. You come up with competence based kind of analysis that will bring that information, what we call the HR metrics, and the report that you'll do, it actually shows why these people are not able to perform, because there are major skills gap. You are not able to be introduced into project, so you have to deal with capacity building. Again, the other cheaper way to achieve this is trying to bring external consultancies to do in-house training, especially if you have some space. On the job and internal and particularly designed courses are very instrumental because they are cheap. You don't have to take them to Mombasa. You just create a space, or you look for a cheap venue. Then you have a consultant and pick a pool of people with very intentional curriculum in terms of where do I want to train them? Is it communication skills? Are they supervisory skills? Are they managerial skills? Are they senior management courses? So for those, for me, I'll even come up with, there's difference between training and management development courses. So you can start them off from once now they have been promoted. Of course, there are challenges of promoting people to the highest levels of incompetencies, expose them to what, there are a lot of institutions, even the Kenya School of Government, that offer very cheap courses on supervisory skills, which is a 3 weeks program. After they come back and experiment, when you send them for training, let them do a report, let them try to do the training impact analysis that we took do for this training. How has it changed how you work? And you get those reports. After some year, take them now to senior management leadership course. They will interact with a lot of people from different fields, and they are given live projects and practical projects for them to do. They'll be challenged by the people they are meeting with. Eventually, by these people, they are going to the manager level. You'll be exposing them now to what we call the strategic leadership courses that can even last for more than 4 weeks. To me, I think, Stella, that would really work for you, but you have to look for a way of justifying a generous training budget so that you can turn and change these people.
Thank you.
Those are some of the challenges that we have. So we will move. Thank you very much, Maurice, and for allowing me to use you as because I'm happy with what they are doing. So someone take us through the performance appraisal. We'll take the same approach. Someone will read for us the 2 slides. Sorry, just allow me. Must have jumped very far. Someone will read for us the 2 slides for performance management. Yes, performance appraisal. We had done, performance appraisal. Then we have someone critiquing or raising a challenge or commenting. Then we move to the next before we go to the case study. I want us to go very practical. We'll also see how the problem we are sharing is what Shane is going through. Performance appraisal, a volunteer. Mary, would you?
Okay, performance appraisal. Integrating competencies within the performance management process.
Mm-hmm. Have we lost Mary?
Yes.
She has dropped. Mary? She's still with us.
Okay. Integrating competency with the performance management system. Is that where you are really?
Oh, it's me who lost you.
Yes.
Just a minute. I think when I was searching for you, I also, we were here.
Okay, great. Yeah, integrating competencies within the performance management process supports the provision of feedback to the employees, not only on what they have accomplished, that is performance goals, but also on how the work was performed using competencies for providing feedback.
Continue, Mary.
Integrating competency in the performance management system helps, one, employees in understanding performance expectation and enhancing competencies. Two, to provide mechanism for providing positive feedback about an employee's training achievements and on-the-job performance. Three, to provide job standards for performance appraisal. To provide clear direction on learning new job skills. To establish clear high-performance standards in collection and proper analysis of factual data against the set standards. To conduct objective feedback to feedback meetings, which are directed towards specific areas of improvement.
That's very good. What's your take on that, Mary, before we exit? Or what is your understanding about the competency-based performance management system?
Yes, of course, now it gives a clear understanding on the expectations. And there's the clear feedback and, objectively discussing and looking at the objectives against performance.
Yeah. This is very true. Especially when the people who use the balance scorecard or any performance appraisal, we always want to have a balance of the work-related objectives of what we call the technical objectives or the perspectives, where I said we could give a weighting of probably 80%, but we also give another section for the competencies, the values. This kind of a performance management appraisal does not just purely look at what we are supposed to do. It also looks at how we are going to deliver our goals. You remember I gave a case where someone could be a star performer in terms of work and delivery targets, but how they do it on knocking on people's head and causing damage to wherever they go, including the client. He cannot work as a team. Those are some of the things. So when you have a competence-based kind of a performance management appraisal, then it gives room for the employee and the supervisor to come down to a conversation where they can give feedback. Yes, you delivered this, you achieved your target, but how you did it, you need to work on your attitude, you need to work on your interpersonal skills, you need to maybe improve on how you relate or you respect your colleagues so that everybody, it's a team effort, it's not a one-person show. Let's look at the performance appraisal you have. What % or weighting do you give to competencies? Or is your performance appraisal, does it accommodate competencies, or we just measure the work objectives, or what we call the technical objectives? Do we all measure competencies? Against, some could pick their competencies actually to reflect the values, the core values of an organization. How creative are you? How respectful are you? What is your level of responsiveness? Are you what about the teamwork? Are you a team player? Do you collaborate with others? How many of us has that? Let me just hear from two. Jerry Karuku, can you hear us? I've not heard from you today. Jerry Karuku. How is your performance management system like? Do you measure competences?
Hi, Rhoda.
Hi, how are you?
Sorry, I'm multisking. I'll get
don't
back.
Worry. So are you able to speak?
I'll get back. I'm finishing up something.
Okay. Achiro, you could pick that for her if you're able to, kindly.
Let me pick it kindly.
Great, Jeff. Welcome.
Thank you, Rhoda. I was following up also. I'm trying to multitask as well.
I understand. This is an adult class.
I think, yes, we measure competence in our organization. And just as you mentioned earlier, we use the performance appraisals to be able to we have distributed them to the supervisors. The various supervisors in the teams are the ones who make we prepare just the questions and the questionnaires, then they are able to discuss with the supervisor. And then because the supervisor deals with the employee directly on a daily basis, then they are able to come up with they are able to come up with the outcomes of the discussion on the areas of improvement, on development areas and skills to develop on the areas the employee wants to train further. They're able to discuss what they have been achieved. We have targets. If a team has achieved their target, then they are able to do a kind of SWOT analysis that where did we perform better? How can we perform better? What helped us to actually hit the target? What can we do different come next year or come next quarter, come next half? Or if they were not able to meet the target, then what were the challenges? Which client was most difficult? Who is best at handling which client? And then they are able to come with all those parameters as a team on how they are going to probably hit the target the following year. And then they bring the discussion to us in terms of now this employee, these are the ratings for their performance, these are the areas they need to train. Then as the HR, we look for the suitable training that will fit best fit their need as a team to improve their competency.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Again, depending with the organization culture, there are some organizations that really values their vision and also the core values, that you can do anything, but how you live our core values really determine the staff and the person and the profile of the person that we want you to. I'll give you one organization that I know, that I worked for. And the competencies, they didn't hold, of course, we had the 80% and the 20%, but they came with a measurement matrix where the work technical related objectives, they could be measured numerically, like you either get a 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5. Then the areas of the competencies, you take all the core values of the organization and they expound them and describe them according to your role, what is expected of you to do and how to live the values of the organization. So in terms of measuring the core values, which we were calling the competencies, they will give what is the numbers A, B, C, D, so that you could be a star performer performing at a 5 because you have achieved all your targets. Your measurable, quantifiable financial targets, the internal processes perspective, you have measured all those perspectives we have in the balance scorecard, the 4 or 5, you have achieved them and you get the highest score, probably over 5. Then they'll take the core values and weigh them. If you get a very high score on your technical, but then on living the values of the organization, you're not performing because, as we said, the way you are achieving the target, you're causing a lot of damage to the work, to your colleagues and maybe to the customers, and it's giving a bad impression or a negative energy, you could score the lowest. Let's say the lowest could be IE. So if you have to score a 5, which is highest in terms of the work objectives, and you score a low marks, anything below a C. C was what we call the average. If you go now deteriorate and get the 5, D or E, you could not even qualify for a budget, for a bonus. You have achieved all your work, but how you are doing it, if it goes to below a particular, of course, you'll not be put on a PIP, but all those not living the value, they say you are not actually right fit for the culture that we have because you are not living the values. They said the values are the core parameters and the core of who we are as an institution and who our staff should be. I don't know how some of us measure them. Do we do the 80 and the 20? How serious are we about the core values or the competence of the soft skills of the people, the issues of the attitude? How many?
Can I contribute on that?
Yes, please.
In the public sector, we have a performance appraisal framework, and it also includes the bit on competencies.
Yes.
And we have 2 levels of competencies. We have the core competencies, And then we have managerial and supervisory competencies.
Yes.
Now, for the general ones, there are those that you're talking about, like teamwork, creativity, time management, communication, all those, professionalism, if you're a member of a professional group, and what have you. Then under managerial and supervisory competences, here we have now specific to supervisory and management. So we have things like leadership, we have things such as training and developing other staff. We have issues on managing resources and accountability, anticipating risks, and taking measures to mitigate against them. Now, in terms of scoring, we score, we have, is it the Likert scale? We use the Likert scale, where 1 is the lowest, and 5 is the higher. But now in the total marks, the weighting is different. The technical bit takes more marks. It takes 70%, 70%, and then the competences take 30%.
Good.
Yes.
Yes, and what I like about that, actually it's widely used in the public service. It really works because you can see the weight it is putting on the supervisor, the leadership, the training and development, the capacity, accountability, utilization of the resources, the stewardship. You have to do that for your team too. Even you could put like coaching and mentorship. So it puts a lot of weight and the burden on the leadership so that they are able to actually facilitate their team to perform. I think that one we have done justice to it. So we will exit performance. Thank you, Mary, for taking us through. Let's go to the next one. The next one was training. So we'll also look at the training. Achiro, take us through the training. Again, there are 2 slides.
Good morning. I'll take you through training.
Yeah, good morning.
Competency-based training focuses on what the participant is expected to be able to do in the workplace as opposed to just having theoretical knowledge. An important characteristic of competency-based training is that it is focused not only on the actual jobs that are required in the workplace, but also the ability to transfer and apply skills, knowledge, and attitudes to new situations and environments. Competency-based appraisal process leads to effective identification of training needs. It gives an opportunity to identify, develop specific training programs, which helps in a more focused training investment. Such a focused training enables improvement in specific technical and managerial competencies. The advantages of competency-based training are participants will achieve competencies required in the performance of their jobs. They'll be able to build confidence of participants as they succeed in mastering specific competencies, and participants receive a transcript or list of the competencies they have achieved.
Great. I think that's, we had tentatively explained that when I was explaining to her about how you tailor your programs that are responsive to what your needs. So if you find what you're missing are these skills and the competencies, the way you drive your training, you actually have tailor-made courses that are responsive, that are deliberate, that are intentional to cure to remedy a particular deficiency that you are seeing in the employee so that they are able to do. So the training that you don't just give off-the-shelf training. You come up with a program, you come up with a curriculum which is responsive to those needs of the business, and then you implement. So we'll not dwell much on that. Let's go to development. Someone take us through the development. Then we go to compensation. There are again 2 slides. Volunteer. Thank you, Achiro, for that. Development.
I can do development as well.
Yes, Njeri, karibu.
Okay. On development, all businesses are based on some key competencies. The main reason for an organization to create a competence-based development system that focuses on having the right people with the right skills at the right time is that it helps in accomplishing business targets. Competencies are the need of the hour, and designing appropriate competency development models is a necessity. Competencies contribute to the understanding of what development really means, giving the individual the tools to take responsibility for their own development. It also gives the right managers a tool to empower them to develop people. Advantages of competency-based development. One is improvement in productivity, performance, and profitability. Identify employees' capabilities for an organization's future needs, and analyzing capability gaps.
Yeah, would you want to comment on that? What is your understanding about it?
On that is when
development,
development. Wow.
I'll pass that. Someone could help her. She's done very good in reading that. What it means that you look at an organization and say, what is it that why is the organization existing? Why is it there? What is it that they want to achieve? What is their mission? And now they take up the competence-based approach of development so that they ensure that the business they have, they want the right people at the right time to do the right thing that they are looking for at that point of time. And that at hour, what is the business need that they want to fulfill? So the people they have, they must develop them to meet those needs of the business. In terms of course, we may have all the qualification, but what is the specific and the unique need of that business? So you ensure that you have the right people at the right time, doing the right thing that is responsive to that business need. So the fit of the people is very critical. And it also gives the responsibility of that organization and the management to ensure that they have tooled and retooled their people to be able to meet their needs. So that is why they say they equip the people in terms of the skills development and for personal. So they could actually just facilitate to ensure that they even have the incentives or programs where people can take the initiative of developing themselves, whether it is creating opportunities for more projects that people have not maybe experienced in, and walking them through so that they are able to actually deliver what the organization requires of them. They also enhance the capacity of their management or give the accountability and responsibility to the managers so that they can ensure that they build the capacity of the people. So the personal development is improving the people's capacity to perform to the requirement of the business. So it combines both the initiative of the organization and also triggering that person to have the initiative to grow themselves. That is all about looking at the capability gaps. What is the gap of what we want delivered, we desire an organization, and how people are able to get it, and how do we fill those gaps in terms of many initiatives. This is not just mere training. It could be different interventions. It could be issues of mentorship, allowing these people and exposing them to projects that they have not performed before so that they meet the needs of the organization. Let's look at compensation. Someone read for us compensation as our last, then we can move. I want us to now move from theoretical and we go to real life case study of the organization that we had yesterday. Who is reading for us compensation? It's another 2 slides as well. Mary, you want to give it a shot again? I can see your mic is on. Yes.
Competency-based pay provides an incentive for employees to grow and enhance their capabilities. The competency-based pay fits their new environment. It provides an ongoing incentive to employees to enhance their ability to perform their jobs. Employees are rewarded with salary increases when they add new knowledge or skills, or when they demonstrate higher level of competence on existing capabilities. Advantages of competency-based pay or compensation are as follows: provides a basis of deciding on the compensation and encourages employees to provide their competencies further, leads to a focus on totality of job rather than just what is achieved. This system fits every job.
That's true. So we've seen these systems where you have, I'm sure you have those arrangements where you can provide, even employees go back to and do a professional job or an academic qualifications. Then probably I know in the private or maybe some in government, where when you bring that and you pass the paper and you bring the certificate, then you get a one-note award for building your competencies at a higher level. Of course, we have facilities where we could maybe facilitate staff with maybe study leave, have facilities like education loans for the staff. And also there are some institutions, and I want to hear examples where the salary increments are triggered by the business, and the percent of the salary increment that some employees, especially in management, because they are not in the union, get are based on their performance. That if you score a higher score, you get a higher increment in terms of a salary. And if you perform at a lower, you get a lower increment in terms of the annual. But then how do you balance this with the inflation adjustment? I would want us to just share experiences who have that kind of a model that when you perform at a higher level, you get a higher increment in terms of the salary. I know in institutions where that has been tried, it has not worked, had been abolished because of issues. Who still have that kind of a system that the performance, that the salary increments are tagged on the performance of an employee?
Forms za watu wa June na May.
Oh, the anniversaries. Of course, they are the anniversaries.
Sababu walikuwa wanasema kwamba hao wanataka tu wale wenye wali from July kwenda mbele. Ingaje we know ya kwamba sisi tunalipa ile leave month.
Tuva, are you speaking to us? I think his mic is on, but he's having another conversation. Is that true, Tuva? Yeah, good. So, experiences. How do you align compensation with performance from your organization? I just want to hear two experiences. One that touches on salary, the one does not touch on salary, and what compensations you have, either bonuses system, and what other schemes you have.
Yeah, thank you, Rhoda. As to your earlier point, we follow the same way. For any salary increase you get, it's directly linked to performance. Things like inflation adjustments are just secondary. For an example, if your performance is rated as poor, automatically you don't get an increase and you also don't get a bonus. So there is that double impact on an individual.
Yes.
So any increase you get is directly linked to your performance. So
and Maurice,
people
how do you do with the union staff who have CBAs?
No, they are out of scope, of course. The union,
okay.
They are not part of this. Thanks for that. Yes.
Yeah, but management staff.
Yeah. You are right.
Yes, that's very good. Any other? Can we hear from Tuva? I know you are having a conversation. Tell us what works in government. I think in government is where we have the challenges with compensation being linked to performance, because we wait until the end of the year and we move to the next notch, or we are given that. Anybody in government? And now with the SRC being around, how do we align compensation with performance management? I think Tuva is in a meeting. Stella, what happens in your workplace? Or Sylvia? Are you able to align, or you're having challenges?
Sorry, what was the question again?
The question is, how do you align compensation, or how do you use compensation as an employee improvement tool for performance?
Oh, yeah. We do not even do performance management in the first place.
Oh.
We are not yet there.
You are not yet there. So you don't have any appraisal tools?
We do not do anything. It's now that we want to start.
Okay.
Yes.
Sylvia, do you have any experiences? You'll get there, Stella. Thank you for that. I think Stella is unable to unmute. That's okay. We will continue. Sylvia, sorry, I'm trying to multitask. Kindly allow me to contribute. That's okay. That's okay, Sylvia. That's allowed. So let's proceed. And we go now to the case studies. And Mary, thank you so much for taking us through that. So the case studies, we are going to look at a real life example on how we actually, or to understand the importance of competencies improving performance. In the case here, we are back to Shane. Just preliminarily to take us through these cases. This is the team that we had at the beginning, and the Shane who is standing there is the project manager for the team, and we saw he has 5 members of his team. Samuel, who is smiling right there, he's a high performer, and we have Catherine, who is a lower performer, despite being at a higher level and with a lot of experience. She has extensive experience. Then we have Liam, who is mostly concentrating on the finance domain, and Rosette and Ashley, who are mediocre performers. So I'll take you through the few slides just to refresh what we learned, and maybe for the purpose of the people who missed this. So we are saying, as seen in the introduction of this course, we had read it. Shane, as the project manager, has to face the responsibility of improving the performance of his team members. Currently, whenever any project is handed to Shane's team, Shane has noticed the following performance levels of his team, as we have seen. A high performer is Samuel. Catherine is a poor performer, but in the structure, that is where she sits as a senior instructional designer. Liam, Loxette, and Ashley are what you're calling mediocre performers. They are in the middle. Then in terms of, Shane conducts a series of one-to-one conversations. He actually had a one-to-one conversation or those interviews for performance with each and every member of his team, both in informal or also in a formal setting. And through the conversation, as well as looking at each of the members in the past performance, he came up with he actually sought to understand or to have a fair idea about the team's members' strength, the challenges, and also the motives of what they're having. And we are going to look at the conversation and what he observed from each of their team members. So in terms of the Samuel, his observations were as follows: that Samuel is a high performer of the team, and his fault or his main area is game-based learning or gaming of learning courses. This is an organization we saw that they deal with the design of instructional materials, both the classroom, the classroom and also the e-learning and also the simulation. So you could see these are designers who design training courses and instruction materials so that we are able to understand the kind of solution. For some, we are saying Samuel is a high performer. He's among the best members of the team. And his main area of focus is game-based learning or gaming of learning courses. And he's also very enthusiastic about learning new things. So this is a passion that he has, or maybe a like. How can we take advantage of that? Then when you look at Rosette, let's see what he came about. He say she's a mediocre performer, but she has experience in developing both what you call the online courses, as well as the classroom kind of a setup that are led by an instructor kind of training. But she does not enjoy doing them both. She has a bias towards, so she likes developing the online courses more than the classroom or traditional kind of learning. But she likes to experiment with different context development approaches. Sometimes she loses focus on the way, and she loses what she's supposed to be pursuing at the end. So she's not able to see the end game. Then when you look at this serious gentleman called Liam, Liam is also a mediocre performer, so he has a lot of years of experience, but mainly focusing on finance domain only. He's an accountant and has very little experience with working with other domains. So he's limited to one. However, in their conversation, it came out that Liam would like to learn to develop classroom trainings also. He would love, but mostly he focuses on finance. What about this new girl called Ashley, who has no experience? She's a mediocre performer and she's still new in terms of instructional design, and she can only do basic online simple courses. And this places the limitations on her because she cannot be competent, or she cannot develop technical or high level courses. She's still doing the little basics she's able to do. But what about Catherine, who is a senior instructional designer with over 5 years of experience? Catherine is a poor performer and worst of all of the team. She has extensive experience in developing not just technical or software trainings. Then she would like to work more on technical or soft training and foray into complete simulation-based training. Then, so where is Shane now? Shane knows that he can improve the performance of each of his team members to a level that will pull the team. So he wants to use competencies that are skills and knowledge that can help the individual to superior performance and effectiveness in work. Shane also knows that lacking competencies usually can be developed with a lot of effort or support. So he knows if he concentrates on his people, he can be able to develop them. So maybe I just want us to hear from now we were going to go to each individual. You are the HR manager, you are the line manager. Put yourself in the Shane's shoes and let's see, what would you do for Samuel in that case? We have said he's a high performer. His game-based learning and gaming is his forte, but he's also very passionate or enthusiastic about learning new things. So what do you think Shane should do? Let's hear. What do you think, Shane, or what would you do to actually ensure that he continues performing at that level and he does better for the team? Mary, give us some solutions from the competence we've done. What would you do with him to ensure that he maintains that level of performance and he continue improving?
First of all, I would want to keep him motivated by even paying him better, and give him that opportunity to learn, because he is passionate about learning new things, and perhaps also attach some people to him for mentorship.
Thank you, Mary. I'll do the same. Ensure that this guy that you have, who is a 5-star for you, you saw the entire team is performing at 2-star. He is kept motivated. Do papers that actually convince the management that we can attach the performance, that he need to be well remunerated. Do you have a commission structure that will ensure, beside getting their normal retainer or the normal salary, that Samuel can smile more than any of other because he's doing more than what is required of do, or he's contributing to the team? You could introduce like the commission-based kind of payment. Again, being a star performer, would you attach someone like Ashley to him so that he can become his mentor and he's able to pull her and also give her the experience and the skills that she requires? That is very beautiful. Thank you. Again, ensure that you are able to give him some more assignment in other activities that are outside the game-based learning or the gaming. He said he is interested to learn new things. So can you start introducing new projects probably, so that he can be able, because you can see he has the drive, he has the goodwill, and he wants to do that. So that is very good. So provide him with new learning opportunities on new projects, so that he can expound also his area of domain. That's exactly what I think he has said. We say, Social speaks to Samuel to understand what interests him and what kind of projects or tasks would like him to learn from, then tries his best to provide Samuel with such projects or tasks. Shane also suggests that some training for Samuel to learn from, to add on his skill set, so that as you're introducing him now to new projects, you could also expose him into new training so that he can understand the content and the basics of that, and then he can learn the skills and experience. So you can see now here, the knowledge competence can be used on this gentleman, and also the compensation in terms of the competence can also be used on Samuel, so that to keep him motivated and to keep his best performer. Let's look at this other lady. She's a mediocre performer. We said she's mediocre. She's normally lost in experience, in experimenting and losing track on what she has to do. And the other thing is Shane has to try his best to give as many projects as related to develop. She has a bias for e-learning. Of course, she tried to do both, but her biasness is in e-learning courses. However, he knows that this lady is one of the few who do not know how to develop the instructional-led kind of training and may not be possible to completely avoid giving Rosette those assignments. Because if the needs of this organization is that they deliver training solutions, both for e-learning clientele and also for classroom, or what we call the instructional-led kind of training, can Shane afford to just say, Rosette will just do what she likes, the e-learning. She will not do the traditional online. Yes, she's been recruited as an instructional designer and she has to do both. So you'll find in her case, she's actually excelling when she's given assignment for e-learning, but because of maybe her age, she wants her level of trying to try on anything, but then she loses focus because she's not able to concentrate. What would you do if you're Shane with the other item that she doesn't like, especially the instructional-led kind of training? What will you do? Let's hear comments. Help Shane here. She's an experienced worker, but with a bias, but she does both. But she has a preference to one. Who want to give it a try? We are trying to come up with solutions.
Yeah,
yes,
I would believe if I am Shane,
yes.
Rosette would want a lot of coaching and mentorship. She's one person who wants to be directed towards in her career because she has the abilities where she's good, she can execute well. But she needs to understand that in her role, she mustn't just be a specialist in that particular area because the organization might want her to deliver in other areas. So she requires a lot of coaching, mentorship for her to succeed. She's a good team player. She can even do more.
Yes, I agree with you, Maurice. In fact, she has the knowledge, she has the experience, but she has a lot of energy from what I see. So that energy needs to be directed and focused so that she doesn't lose it in trying to chase a wild goose. So if Shane is able actually to mentor or to coach her and to direct that energy to that e-learning, then you give her more projects and more technical projects in that, then she'll be able to be very good. However, we also, when you're looking at the organization competencies, as Maurice has said, what is the segment of e-learning in that organization? Probably they've been just pushed into this because of COVID. Maybe majority of their clientele or half of them would prefer the classroom setup. Or, of course, we all know when you actually conduct online or instructional-led, it is more premium product than the online, because now people will pay more and maybe the profit you get for that business, it is more. So there is no way we can exempt her from actually doing what she doesn't dislike if she's an instructional designer. So what I'll go again, I'll break down this job for instructor-led kind of training. What does it entail? Of course, it entails different activities that maybe you have to schedule, you have to organize, you have to play. So you break it like in 5 areas. So which part of that job is very difficult for her? So you work with that so that you are able to know she doesn't have a problem with the scheduling. Maybe she doesn't have a problem with the content development, but maybe the phase of going to class is where so I'll try to balance the areas that she can excel, that she's so competent, that she's so good, you allocate to her. And probably you also give a support person who will also thrive in the areas she's struggling, or you shadow her so that she can be able to learn. But again, you start giving her small chunks of those classrooms that she doesn't like until she becomes an expert. Jeff, let me hear from you. Your hand is up. Your contribution, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rhoda. I think also on the fact that she has a trait of getting lost in while experimenting and losing track. It's also important for Shane to be able to kind of closely monitor her as she's working. Many people don't like micromanagement, but when it comes to such a person who is losing track while experimenting, it's not that they don't have knowledge, as you've mentioned, but they just need some close monitoring as they implement and experiment on the actuals. So you can do very close monitoring for like a period of 3 months or so for a cut-off period. Then he is able to make sure that while implementing, Rosetta doesn't lose track.
That's very beautifully said. Thank you very much, Jeff, for that. I totally agree. So that she doesn't miss her deadlines. Maybe she has a problem of not meeting her deadlines. So these are someone who need to be closely monitored at every phase of the project to just ensure, are we in good progress? Where are we from this? Then you try to close those gaps. This is almost someone you can put on PIP, but not PIP. But she's a very good worker because I think her attitude is good. She just needs to be directed. Thank you. So let's see what Shane does. Probably, I think, is all what we have said on the area of dislike. So Shane speaks to Rosetta and finds out which aspect of the instructor-led training development she dislikes she dislikes developing. He finds out that Rosetta dislikes the part where she has to plan for the session for the classroom training and develop the schedule for the training day. So for Shane assigns schedule, developing tasks to another, maybe instructional designer, and ask Rosette to develop the facilitator and participation guide and the worksheet, which is happy to develop. I think we have mentioned that. Also, he suggests, you can see he's suggesting, he's not dictating you, because you're having a feedback and interview kind of a conversation. He suggests probably you could consider experimenting with only one aspect of every project. Don't over-experiment. Look for things that have been tested over time so that the deadlines are not missed and the courses development as well, quality does not suffer. Hence, Shane uses work on traits, competence to improve that. So you can see he's trying to work on her traits. You remember what we say the traits are? It is her traits that are inherent, that actually are making her behavior be inclined to a particular direction. So we need to really refocus her to the right direction of the business and the requirement of her job. Let's look at Liam. I want to hear about Liam. We agreed Liam is a mediocre performer. His main concentration is the finance domain, but he has very little experience on working on other domains. So whenever Liam works with other domains project, that is when his performance suffers and he's unable to grasp the content of that other new domain. Intervention, let's hear from the competencies. Is it about his traits? Is it about his knowledge? Is it about his skills? Is it about his own concept, what we call them personal concept? Tell me, what will you do this if you're Shane? With Liam, he looked like a true serious accountant. Esther, are you able to unmute? You put yourself in Shane's shoes. Achiro, take us through what you do. What do you think of that? Are you able to unmute? Or anyone can give it a shot.
I think I hear you, Rhoda. I think Shane needs to invest a lot in Liam in terms of broadening his capabilities, be it knowledge and skills. You can see he's a specialist. I think Liam needs to go into the generalist space. He needs to understand that the organization is broad. We don't only develop people in terms of their financial competencies. There are other aspects that makes up the organization. So on the basis of that, to an extent, Liam is a candidate for development. investment in terms of training, so that
Great.
he acquires the necessary skills so that he can be a good team player.
I totally agree. So this is a very ripe candidate for knowledge, kind of a competence where you tailor particular courses on areas that are outside the finance domain. Then you start giving him, gradually winning him over small projects in this other domain, and also exposing them to experience, and he'll be able to thrive. That is very true. Let's see what went into the conversation with that, whether it reflects what Maurice has said. And we say, he suggests to Liam that whenever he faces a problem in undertaking the content of any other domain, he should seek help from his peers or the subject matter experts, or even try to read or to research topics from the internet, the books, to understand it better. This way, Liam would have a clarity about the content and understand it to develop higher quality courses, and his own performance would improve greatly. He also suggests some training for Liam, you can see, to learn to develop the instructional-led trainings. He also assigns small chunks of development tasks in the instructional-led training projects to Liam so that he can get his hands-on training. That's in terms of the skills. Hence, Shane focused on improving the knowledge competence to better the Liam's performance. You see, in this kind of conversation and the feedback when we are having on the performance, it is giving responsibility to both, that Liam will endeavor for his personal development. He should do more research, read books, go to the internet and try these materials. On the side of Shane as the supervisor, he has to look for a training that fits Liam so that he can grow him. He'll also have to, in terms of when he's allocating duties, also to start allocating him some opportunities and small projects for him and ensure that he's well guided. He's also encouraging, like, if they are instructional-led kind of training, who is the expert in the team? They'll be able to consult, work together and as a team so that they create synergy. He's also able to network with the experts, the subject matter experts from other fields, maybe from within or from outside. And you can see now we are growing the organization, we are growing the performance of this team, and also at the individual level. I can't wait to see maybe after 1 year, if actually Shane was to do all this intervention, how would his team look like? So let's move to Ashley. What would you do with this Z generation girl, Ashley? She's a mediocre performer, young, energetic. She's new with basic knowledge. She's still learning the ropes of the organization and the culture of the organization, but her performance is limited to maybe just some basic courses and a bit, she's not able to take on more complex courses. What would you do? Let me hear. You are the Mr. Shane. What would you do with Ashley? These are the new recruits we have in our work organization. She has just landed. And she's still finding her space. Mary had alluded to something that would really be applicable to Ashley.
Can I?
Yes, please, go.
Yes, I think this is now the person I would attach to Samuel, because she lacks experience. She has basic knowledge,
yeah,
but she's limited to experience.
That is very true. Any other? Any other? That is very true. Mary, totally agree. And I know Shane must have suggested that to her. This is also someone who needs peer support to work with the team so that she's able to come into the culture and know, so that she's able to synergize what she has. Then, as you say, assign Samuel to Ashley as a mentor to hold her hand and to walk with her the journey. And also, we can also focus on the skill-based kind of competence, because she has the knowledge, but the skills on how to learn the ropes is what we should actually focus on. So he encourages Ashley to keep asking questions to his peers, learn from his from each project that she takes, and apply new things that she learns in her next project. That in every project that she's assigned, what are the lessons of that project? And then she applies what she learns in the next project. Then he assigns Samuel as a mentor to Ashley to to handhold Ashley in her learning journey and help improve Ashley's skills and also better her performance. Then Shane focuses on skills competence to improve Ashley's performance. What about Catherine? Catherine has many years of experience. She's actually next in terms of, they're in the same rank with Samuel as a senior instruction designer, but she's a poor performer. And she say here, from the observation and the conversation they had, he actually realized Catherine's poor performance is due to her attitude towards developing non-technical. You remember we saw her focus is on technical courses, but for non-technical cases, Catherine is not passionate about. Whenever she has to work on any non-technical projects, because she's a technical person, she has a disinterested attitude and she lacks interest. And this is what has reflected in her poor performance. What is that? She has no interest in non-technical. Her area is she's a technical person. How would you deal with that case? You can see even her demeanor in terms of her predisposition. Let me hear from anyone. How would you deal with that? And what is your comment about her self concept and the attitude? Because she has extensive experience. Jeff, would you want to comment? Jeff had commented he's also multitasking. Achiro? Morris, give us a solution. What would you do?
Yeah, this will be a difficult case. You know, dealing with someone with such an attitude, it gives Shane some work to do. I would work on her attitude. Yes, of course, she does well in terms of technical trainings, but sometimes will be called upon to deliver on non-technical. Yes. And she's experienced. I would want to believe she's one of the seniors in Shane's department. She must lead by example. So Shane needs to work on her attitude. She needs to see the bigger picture in terms of the department, what we need to accomplish together. That attitude does not assist us. Yes, technical, but sometimes we are called upon to deliver non-technical. I know it might be a difficult thing to address the attitude in the short term, but it's something that she needs to work on. Otherwise, if she doesn't change, this will be a candidate for exit or for PIP.
That's true. That's true. I totally agree, especially when you have to deal with attitude issues, it becomes. So he speaks to Catherine and tries to make her understand that as an instructional designer working in an organization that works on various types of the courses development project, she cannot afford to have such a narrow-minded attitude towards her work. Also, Shane encourages her to take interest in different domain-related courses that they develop. And this would not only improve her knowledge and also experience, but at the same time showcase her capability as an instructional designer who is capable of handling all kinds of projects that are required for the business, both the technical as well as the non-technical. Hence, Shane focused on Catherine's self-concept competency type to help Catherine improve on her performance. I think that is what Maurice has basically told us. Just a minute, I think there's a jump on my slide. Yes, that is what we were talking about, and that is where we have reached. And therefore, from analyzing that case that we've looked at, you can see how we can apply different competence-based kind of programs in trying to improve the performance of an employee. You can see who needs knowledge-based kind of competence, who needs the skill set, who need to work on their self or the self-concept they have, the personal concept they have, who needs to be exposed to skills. I think we've been able to see all that level of combination and how we can use the different types of competency to help each member of the team to actually overcome their limitations and the obstacles they have in their performance of duties. So you can see now how our manager, we don't have one fit all competence for everyone. So that is the why open communication, feedback, having candid discussions with the employee, you are able to know what are their weaknesses, what are their strengths, where do I need to improve, what is their area that they need, what is it that they have to bring on the table, what is it that the team, because you have to support someone who is supportive. They must be willing to change, they must be willing to be supported, and they must be willing to put the part of their bargain for the sake of the team, for the sake of the supervisor, and for their own sake and that of the organization. Is that clear? That brings us end to that. I think now we go to the lesson, but I'll let, I can pick any questions, clarification. How is the practical case? Are we able now to take it back to our workplaces and to see how we'll do our performance appraisal, how we can guide our line managers? Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear, Rhoda.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you. So because of time, I'll move to the next training. Of course, using training. Now we are done with using competency as to drive performance. We look at training. Training, I think, being the core and the heartbeat of the HR. And for us, I'm sure everybody now has had this. You have taken part in the training in terms of the developing the courses, trying to mitigate maybe what is happening in the performance gaps after we do the analysis. We've done training needs analysis. For this, so I'll walk over very fast because it's a familiar area. It's not very technical, so that we are able to finish in good time. I can see we only have about 30 minutes. So in terms of trainings, here we are saying we can use the following process for using training to improve the employee performance. For any training, the process we have taken is just a 4-step where we say we identify. What is it that we are identifying? We are identifying the business needs of the organization. We are identifying the performance gaps of individuals and the team, whether at functional level, operational level, so that we know what is it that we are dealing with. Then, once we know what are the gaps, what is it that we need to address, then you go and develop, look for mitigating, or what we call, you develop training courses that are going to be responsive. So we are not going to a shelf and picking a training course. We have identified, that's why we did now the training needs analysis. We also entrench what we call the performance evaluation and identification of the development gaps that need to be done and the training gaps. Once we have all that diagnosis and the information, you go ahead and develop a training program that is responsive to addressing those needs. So in terms of this, it's the development, the design of the curriculum, the content of what we want to train. And then after we have all done and we ensured that the training programs we are coming with are going to respond to the needs, then you go ahead and implement. What does implementation involve? Implementation involve now deciding we are going to do in-house training. We are going to have maybe an instructional-led training by our internal capacity, or we are going to outsource to a consultant, or we can develop e-learning content material that can be accessed by more people and can be done periodically and regularly, like every year. That is the implementation base. After we have conducted the training, it has been implemented, people have been subjected to that program, then we need to measure the impact of that training. And that is where we come to evaluation. In HR, and after every training we do, we always conduct what we call the training evaluation assessment immediately after the training, so that we see, was the content sufficient? How was it packaged? How was the presentation? Did we create adequate time? Are there things that we didn't capture that next time maybe they could be corrected and captured? So you do all that. And also you can also do what we call the training impact analysis. The training impact analysis is where you see what is the performance of the employee or the productivity prior exposing them to the training program. Then how has that moved after the exposure to the training program. Then you're able to see if there's a positive effect or they have just, so that is how you're able to determine the effectiveness of your training. So those ones are not go word to words. I think they are self-explanatory. So we have identification, we have the to develop, then we have the implementation, and then how we evaluate. So maybe just another approach we'll take about, we've looked at two types of learning approaches in terms of trying to improve the performance of employees. So the first one is what you're calling the corrective learning kind of method, which is also referred to as the single loop learning. Why we call it the single loop learning? Because this is a type of learning that is just designed and intended to correct an error, a mistake, a deficiency, a shortfall. So you see, this is not happening. So you just narrow down on that error and you develop a training program that is correcting that so that we don't have a repeat of what has happened before. So it's just corrective, trying to react to an error to close that gap so that it doesn't recur. So this kind of training does not factor so many other activities like the organization environment, the organization structure, the policies, the procedures and the processes that are there. It is just focused on what is the issue, how do we correct it, and then we correct it and we seal that gap so that it doesn't appear again. So it is a training that is approached at rectifying faults and mistakes and errors of any kind. Then this is where I'm saying it is actually ignores these other existing parameters like the structures, the procedures, the processes, and the practice. It takes them for granted. Its intention is just to close a repeat over an issue, so it's more corrective. Then the other type of, this still corrective, I think I've explained. The other type of learning, we call it transformative. This is just a multiple question that I don't want to belabor. We have said it is also called the single looped kind of learning because it is focused on one item of corrective of the error. So this one I'll not expose you through. So number 2 is what we call the transformational learning for improving performance. Transformational learning kind of a method, it is where this is a more in-depth kind of learning where you take into consideration the things that the single learning or the learning kind of approach takes. It ignores the structure, it ignores the culture, it ignores the environment, the procedures, and the things that makes up an organization. It ignores all that. But when you look at transformative learning, it does not just focus on correcting the current mistake. It is take a reflective approach of the organization and see what are the things that are contributing maybe to the errors. If there are many, maybe errors, defects, repeat, maybe at the manufacturing, what could be causing that? Could it be that the employees are demotivated? Could it be that the equipment are not being well serviced? Could it be the equipment that we are using, the employee are not being trained, they don't know how to use it, or they are so complicated? So it looks at all the infrastructure of the organization and take a back seat to do a reflection of what could be leading one thing. Because instead of just seeing, we normally see an iceberg, but what is underlying, instead of treating the symptoms, you actually treat all the issues that comes with it. So even as we come up with the case like Stella was talking about, is it just training that we want to take people for leadership program that they can learn this? Or is it the organization culture that starts from how do we recruit? How do we bring about people? How do we promote them? What has led us to doing that? Why do we have to invest a lot of money trying to reskill people who are not even trainable? So this is the kind of learning approach, and that is the most effective to many organizations. But in every organization, we have both. So here we say this type of learning also involves a kind of correction, but at the very practical level. We are saying it helps the organization to take a reflective look at and analyze the most ingrained features of the organization culture and also improve them. Then we are saying a transformational learning questions an employee's deeply ingrained and firmly held opinions, like the case of Catherine. And most employees find it difficult to adapt the transformational learning wholeheartedly. You can imagine the conversation Shane will have with Catherine. It's not going to be an easy conversation like he would have with someone like Liam or Lozette. So, however, in order to take a full advantage of the learning culture and to deal with things deeply, employees should find ways to break down their barriers and adapt such a reflective learning for improving their performance to actually ensure this is the organization that has employed me. This is the organization that is paying for my bills. They have found it good to recruit me and to give me a position to serve. So you should also look at the needs of the organization, that our clientele are not just technical kind of clientele. They're not just e-learning. They need the classroom. They need the non-technical. And probably that is the biggest segment that is actually generating revenue for your salaries. So this is just a slide of how, again, we want to go practical. We don't want to go all theory and technical. It is just something to usher you in maybe into another practical case. So we are going to see and understand the relevance of training in terms of when you're trying to improve performance through training. So this is another case study of, and I want to ask one of us to read. Maurice, if you can kindly take us through this case study for Peter Thornton. This is now a new one, and we'll just see how he used training to improve his team's performance. Just take us through the few slides. They're just about 5 slides. If you could read for us, Maurice. Is Maurice with us? Esther, we get your comments. Sylvia, we get your comments. Mary, is Mary? It looks like Maurice has dropped off, or I need to bring him to this other side. No, he's dropped. Mary, are you?
Read, yes. The real life experience. Peter Thornton works as a sales manager for a reputed organization that manufactures water purification systems. Peter has a team of 12 sales executives who are responsible for making the first line sales visit to prospective customers.
Just a minute. Just a minute. I think you can still see my slide.
Yes, we can see there.
There's something that has happened. Just give me a minute. I share again. We are back?
Yes.
Good. There's something that happened on my side. Good. So continue.
So each of these sales executives gets a list of leads that are prospective customers who they have to personally visit. During the sales visit, the executive has to sell any one of the water purification products to the customer. Peter has noticed that out of the 12 sales executives, only 2 are able to make some significant number of sales. Rest of the team is performing poorly and are not able to make any sales, and their customer conversion rate is very low. Peter asked his team members to show him how they approach their customers and what exactly they do in their sales visits. After looking at this and speaking to many of the team members, Peter decides that his team requires a proper training in sales and negotiation skills. Peter speaks to his operations head and asks the learning and development team to plan and organize a relevant training for his team. The learning and development team hires an external third-party vendor that specializes in sales and negotiation training. The third-party vendor then delivers an extensive training in the sales and negotiation skills to Peter's team. The training includes a lot of practice sessions for each team member to work on their sales skills. After the training, Peter encourages each of his team members to apply all that they have learned in the training sessions within a month of completion of the training. Peter notices a significant improvement in sales figures on his entire team. Also, Peter finds that the confidence level of his complete team now has been boosted by the training. Many of the team members learned from the training to use the basic framework of sales negotiation and then learned to customize it for their own style and personality. Hence, you can understand that training can play a crucial role in helping employees improve his performance. Just like Peter, a manager can use training to improve the performance of not only individual employees, but also boost the performance of an entire team if the complete team lacks a particular set of skills.
Great. That is just a case study that we picked on how we actually bring the training. You see the processes, the four stage processes we've talked about. You actually identify, you develop the content, implement, and then evaluate. This is actually what Peter employed in this. And you can see this can be used for this case for Peter. He used an external resource, a consultant or a third party probably, because he could see maybe his team has familiarities with him, and maybe it could make more sense to bring an external person to talk to these people from an experience and an industry or market perspective, rather than him doing it. If actually funds are not allowed, this does not stop. Again, if you find in a department or a functions, you need to do those kind of training, you can always partner with your networks and ask someone to come and talk to your people. You can also ask the other line managers who are subject matter experts to talk. If you can say, if it's about issues like people in the credit department and they are having challenges with securities and conveyancing and the legality of some of the clauses or the terms of what we have as products, even the company secretary or the legal department, you could invite such people for those in-house training, probably early in the morning or in the evening. Or if you're in a big organization, the subject matter experts, you can always call upon them to come and talk to your people. So ensure that you have identified. Don't train before you have clearly identified the gaps, know what you need to fill, and then when you're developing your program, let it be purposeful, intentional, and focused to what you want to fill as the performance gaps. Then implement and evaluate. You can see Peter has gone back and evaluated, and actually the performance of the team has come, and also the feedback. It also breaks the ice so that you're able to have that now effective communication and the feedback about, and then allow people to play with it so that they're able to put their own style, as long as it's within the company structures, the policies, and they're able to apply through creativity and give you the results. And now we come to our last item, which is PIP. PIP is Performance Improvement Plans or Program. And this is where we were saying the candidate, like Catherine, was a candidate for PIP. So I think we have worked with PIP. We know the challenges that comes with it. We know the challenges that these are hard decisions we have to make for people who have consistently not performed. And it just means that this is now a case where an employee has failed to perform consistently and now has to leave the comfort of the departmental appraisal, where most of the employee will just meet with their line manager, their supervisor, do the appraisal, all is well, they agree, and that moves to HR, and that has been. But now here we start seeing issues of escalation, where now the concerns of poor performance now start becoming an organization issue, and your supervisor or the line manager now start escalating the monitoring and the evaluation of an employee's performance now to the other departments, possibly, most likely the HR. So that as you put this person now on short-term period, kind of a review period, if you used to do quarterly or half-year now appraisals, now they start being evaluated on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, with reports which are being done to the line manager and also to the HR, so that they keep track of this. This is a very difficult moment for every staff, because even now the stakes are high. Your job is at risk. Again, where maybe the supervisor could have given you some leeway like you like this course, you don't like, you're doing this, encourage, you have a conversation. Now you start now making very specific targets and objectives with standard expected performance. And this now it's under the watch of both your line manager and the HR. And you can see, because we are very careful about how we progress, because we know this is a case that can lead to termination, then we become now a bit more strict to look at the standards and what they provide to the letter. So you said you'll produce 10 items in this quality within this time. So now you become a subject matter of interest, and more scrutiny is put on you, including your other conducts and their competencies, because everybody is trying to see what is affecting the performance. Is it attitude? Is it a personal concept? Is this a skills gap? Is it the exposure? Is it the experience? We even start now questioning what your qualification now closed. So you're out of that comfort zone. And this is, in many organizations, we can say PIP is looked at as a waste of people's time, because now you have to take many hours of your supervisor, of your line manager, if they have an escalation matrix, of the HR, to keep on doing reports and monitoring you and focusing on you. And this becomes very issue. Of course, we find that many line managers will be reluctant to go for P&P straightforward. Once an employee is placed on P&P, his or her performance now is being monitored by everybody. There is always that feel, even from the management, if it all goes wrong, will I have costed them their duty, their job? Will I be the one who is blamed for this, for escalating? So you want to be the nice manager. So it is always a very difficult period. But then that is what PIP, you can see this person has been put really under focus because of the many stakeholders. The stakeholders could be his team members who have raised concerns that we are given this as a project, you are not performing. They could be the HR manager, they are in green. They could be the line manager, they are in blue, and all other. And probably because of the termination, this could now attract even the attention of, if it's a unionizable staff, by the time you're putting you on a PIP, even now the shop steward and your union representative are maybe at a national level starting contributing into that discussion. Again, are you going to be subjected to the disciplinary process? Because even for performance management kind of termination, you have to follow the due process, that you have to ensure we have these discussions, the resources have been provided, you have made commitments, we are following, the reports are there, you are given an opportunity to be heard before any termination end could be done. So you start attracting a lot of attention, and it's not a very good place to be. Just to jog our mind, we all know what a PIP, or is it my assumption that we know? PIP is actually performance improvement plans, or what we call performance improvement programs. So I'll not sweat you over that. It's something that you know. But we just normally put these slides to just help us pause and just to reflect. Do I even actually know what is PIP? At times we just say it loosely and someone may not know, but I'm glad the team I have, they all know. And now I think you are coming to the very last tail end of our 2 days presentation, and we are going to look at just 5 items, which is the factors affecting performance and individual development plans. And these things I will not re-emphasize, because I think here and there we have really explained what they mean. I think maybe I could have thrown them in some of the explanation, and being the HR that we are, I don't think there are issues that are technical that we'll struggle with. So we will just loosely discuss them. Then if there are any queries, clarifications, or challenges, we can raise. So I know today we didn't take a break, and I think it's going well. So factors affecting performance and also individual development plans. So some of them would be things like the role profile. You remember we said the role profile of every individual must be clearly laid out, must be clearly understood by both parties, that is the employee and also the supervisor, that's the line manager. And we say they must be aligned to the bigger organizational goal, that whatever you're putting in the table, it is helping us in the realization of a strategic goal. So it's just merely the role clarity that has to be clear, put down, jointly signed. We see our JD, we sign jointly, and it may be understood by both parties, that the employee understand, I know what is expected of me. I know what is my responsibility and my obligation. The supervisor knows, and also he understands, what does my supervisor expect from me? On the other side, the supervisor who is going to be reviewing your performance and your everyday work understand this is what the employee's scope of work is. This is what is expected of you. So in my supervision, I will focus and concentrate on that agreed scope. We have come up with clear objectives, and that is what is the scope. Then we have also identified in the individual development needs that need to be filled, how they need to be facilitated for this person to perform optimally. That's all about the role profiles. When it comes to objective settings, we agreed for you to come and do any performance assessment, appraisal, or evaluation. There must be predetermined goals at the beginning of the performance period. Predetermined, discussed, and agreed, and they must be SMART, that is specific, measurable, time-bound, or that, and clearly understood that when I mean this, this is what I mean, and this is what I need to achieve, and this is how I need to achieve, and this is the performance period and where I expect to discuss. And you also have a conversation that if there are deficiencies or changes in the role in the between, we will have a conversation and probably put it in writing so that the objectives are very clear. And we said for you to set individual performance targets, they must be reflective of the strategic objective of the function and also the overall organization. Then we talked about performance measures and assessment. You remember, we went through various metrics, the KPIs, especially in the HR functions. You'll get these slides so that you have very well agreed measures that if it's about posting this transaction, what will be measured? Is it the error rates? Is it the number of transactions? Is it the turnaround time? It is very clear. Then I can keep my records. Then I'm also aware, and my supervisor is aware, from these measures, this is how we'll assess them. These are what we will look at to determine whether I have performed or not performed. Then the other issue is performance planning. Yes, you have set the targets, you have set the measures, you have all the objectives. How do you plan to execute this? The effectiveness and the efficiency of any performance management, it all boils down to the planning. Planning is where you identify, you agree, you come up with how we are going to achieve the what that we agreed on. So performance management is very key in terms of the performance planning is very critical and cannot be overemphasized. You better even spend a lot of time planning, then the execution will just flow, because you cannot go where you don't know where you are going. You must know, you must lay the roadmap to know I'm focusing to, so that you don't start moving to another direction. If I tell you you are supposed to walk 100 kilometers, I've not told you whether you are going to Thika or you are going to Kapenguria. If you embark on a journey that you are supposed to go to Thika now, you start going to Kapenguria. Then when you're in Nakuru, I say you're in the wrong direction. That is how important the performance planning is. Development planning. Yes, we have said these are the objectives we need to set. This is where you need to go, but how do we facilitate you going there? If I was to tell you that you have to walk for 100, you have to move 100 kilometers within an hour, how do I expect you to get there? Is it by walking? Do you need to cycle? Do you need to drive? Do you need to fly? Then, do you have the flights? Do you have the motorcycles? Do you have the cars? How are you supposed to do that? You are supposed to carry out this project. Let's say for the case of Liam, you're supposed to do which another domain, not a finance domain, instruction design. And I clearly understand he has said he has no knowledge. He has no experience, but I want him to venture into that. How do I facilitate his development? So we have to plan the way they plan, that for you to go here, I'll expose you to this kind of training. You need to go to the internet and search. You need to read books. You need to talk to the subject matter. You need to talk to your peer. You need to revise so that you are able to embark on that. So what are the identified development planning, and what are the competencies that they are needed to do? We are not continuing as status as quo. So there is that facilitation. And finally, performance agreement. For any performance management to be effective, it must be they must be jointly agreed between the employee and the supervisor from the word planning. You come with individual work plan, you agree at the beginning of the period, you sign it off as a sign of agreement so that someone does not come and change the targets midway and say, this is not what we agree. The employee does not come back when you're having conflict and grievances and say, we never discussed this. This is the first time you're having a performance meeting at the appraisal. Then I ask the supervisor, do you have the evidence that these are the targets you agreed? Then you cannot start telling me, go and pick Peters instead of what if someone had come in the middle of the, so that is actually what I can say, the factors that are affecting performance and individual development. I think they are self-explanatory. So when you go through the slides, which you can read, it's just an explanation of what, but maybe I'll take any question on that. What is not clear? Anywhere you need us to clarify about the 6 factors that affect the performance and the individual. I think the other slides you can just read on your own. Any question on that? Any comments? Additions? Subtractions? And areas of divergent opinion? We are a democratic country, Maurice.
Maybe an addition.
Yes, yes.
Okay, a contribution kind of. Sometimes you may be faced as a profession in an environment where the laid down procedures for your appraisal process are challenged probably by the staff or the team leaders or the various heads of departments.
Yes.
And probably they prefer it in a different way. Others prefer it. They really insist they want to do the performance appraisals online. Others insist that we have had these discussions with my team, and this and this is okay. This and this is not okay. So it takes us back to again just the agreement that you look at how your organization culture is, and you are able to make decisions as the HR according to how the staff, how the culture is. Because again, if someone really wants to do their appraisals online without having to meet physically with the team member, and you insist probably they must meet physically and do 1, 2, 3, then you may only end up straining probably that relationship. So according to how the organizations we are in are diverse, we should approach the performance appraisals in the same manner and being delicate as they are.
Yes. So actually that's a challenge to us in HR about the flexibility. Let's not be this HR who say this is what the policies say, this is what the structure you have to meet. Like in this COVID period where majority of the people are working online, or maybe the geographic or there could be no movement. At times, what we'll see, like when we have a geographically sparse kind of a distribution, let's say like the people in the financial industries, you'll call maybe for the annual or the half-year branch managers meeting, discuss issues of the performance at a high level, branch level, and all that departmental level, and lay down. Of course, we have to embrace the online, but you also have to come up with very clear structures on how we are embracing technology. I would not have any objection where we conduct online appraisals, because you can do it through Zoom. Zoom, we are recording what you are doing. You can do it through Teams, where you can present and say, this is what your agreement, and then you are able to, you always record. You keep record of those in case of any variances, and especially where people agree, they do it virtually, they sign it, you can send it, they sign off. That means there must be a proof of agreement. And that's why you see in most of the performance appraisal, as much as we are discussing the content, everything virtually, like the way we are holding meetings, of course, there will be comments by the appraisee to confirm that actually the performance appraisal assessment has been discussed with your line manager. So he must make a comment and agreement. And they say, we have discussed and agreed on this. And then what are the development goals? What are the mitigation? What is the way forward? And you both sign. I will not have any objection. We even have the digital signatures nowadays, but I'll not say, of course, people before could discuss that on form, but I want it reflected on the performance appraisal form. Again, you'll always have those issues where the finance department feels their weighting on a financial perspective should be different with the financial weighting of the HR. We should be able to have that kind of flexibility. And one thing that I've really seen working is where we come with the HR partnership. When they have those, listen to all what they have, listen to their input. Then you can have a meeting with the department or those people, hear your views, hear their challenges, what are the areas. If you need to go consult further. You can consult with your senior managers if you're not the one in charge. If also that flexibility of the tool, because some of these tools have been made by consultants and they are maybe probably off shelf, and some of parameters are even difficult for you to change. Can you engage them? At times you even invite them for a meeting and they tell you, how do we resolve this to ensure, because they are unique requirements of the job. They are dynamics of the job. And do we constantly review our HR processes and procedures, and also the systems that we have and the tools, or the tool we were using 10 years down the line, it is the tool we are still using today. That, because we have to keep on moving with what is happening in the market. So review, you could say after every 2 years. And the other thing is, how do you pick the feedback about the feel of this tool that you're using from the users? You're not the user. You're just a facilitator. But how do the people who are using it feel? Then you can take an average feel and say, this is good. We can retire it. We can look at it. People keep on changing from one system to another. I think that's what I would say, Jeff, but that is a very critical point, and I feel what you're saying. Any other comments? I think we've come to the end. The rest is it's a case study that I don't want to really go into. Yeah. Any other comments? I think that has been a very good session. Can we have comments? That means we are okay with it. So with that, I can my call to action for all of us, it is to go practice what that we have learned from each other. From this, I know you'll get all these slides. You'll also get the video recording for all this so that you can be able to revisit, and you're able to move. So in these slides, of course, you'll get another case study here that you could practice, but I think, or the research areas, that one I'll just leave to you so that you can just keep yourself learning, look at it. I know we are going to meet in many forums, including that we'll talk about performance management. This is just for your practice so that you are able to keep yourself abreast with what is happening. But I think that covers everything of what we have. So with that, for me, it's just to tell you congratulations for finishing this module and for listening to me, actively participating. And I've really enjoyed my training on these 2 days. So for me, it's just to wish you the best in everything that you do, and to make sure that whatever you've learned in this session, you're going to apply it in our workplaces. So thank you very, very much. And brings me to the end of the training session for today. And also, it also brings us to the October series for the HR CPD points from ICHRP. So we are looking forward to see you in our various sessions that we are lining up. I'm sure you've seen a lot of communication from Dan about our coming symposium, which is in Naivasha from 16th to 19th. I'm sure you can see he has also organized another industrial relations summit again in Mombasa, Pride in Paradise, sometime in December. And I'm sure we'll also meet on the online sessions, the HR series for November and December before we close the year. So keep coming for those. And Maurice, if you still be around the country, you're invited for the Naivasha so that you experience. It's a good way that you network with various practitioners, and what we share on the floor is actually what we take back to our workplaces, because we are all in this industry of the HR, and we keep on learning every day. So for me, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. Your certificates and the materials, you'll get them on the learning management system. I'm sure Dan will actually guide you on that once you contact him, but they are all available. So thank you very much, and I wish you a very good afternoon. It's midday already.
Thank you, Rhoda. Until we meet again, thank you. It was interesting. We learned a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.